Welcome back to Ireland AM. Now, Kerry may be in Croke Park today, but the man who strikes fear into their hearts is on the couch beside us.
Yes, who put the ball in the Kerry net? He did. Twice. Former Dublin footballer and sports psychologist Kevin McManamon joins us to talk about the mindset behind elite performance, overcoming self-doubt, and why looking after your mental health is just as important as physical training. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And you're wearing green.
I am, yeah. I'm a bit of a 50-50 man today.
You're neutral.
Yeah.
Okay.
I spent a week in Kerry on my holidays.
Oh, did you?
And my dad's parents and family are from Mayo, so I'm on the fence.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
all right, just be careful you don't get any splinters while you're sitting.
Yeah, fair.
It is a special day, All Ireland Final Day.
It's great, and even the excitement you can feel it around the place this morning. Even seeing it, I was like the amount of people jumping on the buses and the colours and all that sort of stuff. So, it's going to be a great day.
I think the excitement, and we've been speaking about it all day, there's something different in the air on All Ireland Final Day, but I mean, to have been there and experienced it, it must bring back such vivid memories for you.
Yeah, listen, it was great, and we were on a bit of a whirlwind. I think like pretty much 10 finals I was involved in between replays, and I was there 12 years, so it was I was spoilt a little bit with the experience, but that's great. Even the last day, it's always the 2 weeks leading up to it that you love, the extra 2 weeks train and the extra 2 weeks with the lads, plotting what you're going to do on the big moments and stuff like that. So it's going to be a good game. Looking forward to it.
Well, that's what we hope, because we need a tight match. The last couple of All Ireland finals in both hurling and football have been quite one-sided. Sorry, Eric, but but
you're not wrong.
As a player, though, do you try to shut out the noise? Do you just try to remain focused?
Look, there is a lot of that. You'd be very aware of the noise that's going on and very aware of the motives behind the noise. That's to get people excited, and they want trophies and they want wins, but they don't really care about your game plan or how you respond to challenging moments in games. So you try and stick to what the tasks is, what's your mission, what do I have to do to win the game? Do you know what I mean? So that's always a challenge, and that's nearly a little bit of me worry today for Mayo, was that it's the first go and the consequences are a bit bigger, and what's expected of you is a little bit more. So it's going to be interesting to see how the young guns deal with it.
Okay, 2011. You were one of the young guns. You were part of a team that hadn't won for 16 years, going up against a team who'd won several All-Irelands in the years that went before. This is a special moment. I was sitting in the lower Cusick, and as soon as Alan gave that ball to you,
it was only going one place.
Just keep it low.
Yeah. Well, that's what my dad told me that morning, would you believe? He says, if you get the chance, put it on the deck. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why he said that, I don't know, but that was what I did anyway. Yeah, it was great, and I was a bit very, very shy young fella who was, the occasion was just so big, and it was Kerry, and Kerry were the totem pole of GAA. Do you know what I mean? And luckily we got the job done, so I was grateful for Alan Brogan and Keane O'Sullivan and these guys tackling and
winning the ball, and then Alan carrying
and getting the credit, even though they're doing all the work. Do you know what I mean? So,
I know. Bernard was the other side of the goal, screaming for the ball. Were you ever going to pass it?
I had no. He'd be screaming the whole time, and you know what I mean. You have to have selective hearing, I think, with him around. Do you know what I mean? So
I suppose better than anyone the pressure that these players are under coming into games like this, and you've been quite open about performance anxiety and how pivotal, I suppose, Roy was on your own career. Could you talk to me a bit about that?
Well, look, I suppose sport brings pressure, and it's unnatural for us to go out in front of 80,000 or 1 million people watching and put our reputation on the line, put 6 months of 6 years of training on the line for 70 minutes. So we need tools and skills. I had none when I was 23. Didn't really get butterflies. I just blocked trying to get rid of them. How do I get rid of them? And just overthinking and worrying about it, and thinking about all that would go wrong and stuff like that. So I just had to learn a little bit more about mindset and learn a bit more about the psychology of pressure and sport, and just build me confidence up. It takes time, so it probably took me takes a lot of people a year or two to build the confidence that they belong at inter-county level, certainly in the bigger games, and probably took me about 4 years because I wasn't asking the right questions or asking the right people, you know. And once I did, I just knew if I do A, B, C and D, I'll be able to relax. I'll enjoy the situation, and that's what I miss now. I haven't played a final in 7 years, and I just miss the pressure and miss the excitement so much, you know. So from something that I dreaded, now it's me.
Yeah,
we hear about confidence players, like when you win that first ball or you get the first tackle or you get the first score, and if sometimes it doesn't go that way, it can ruin a high level player's game. Do you think people are open and honest about that? Do you think people are having enough conversations around that?
I'm not sure. Certain sports they are, at certain teams they are, and they aren't. Like, you know, if your confidence goes after one ball, you don't have confidence. Yeah, it's false. Do you know what I mean? It's not based on, you know, a solid foundation. Do you know what I mean? So you'll see the best guys today, like Cogan McDonald the other day, was missing shots, but he kept going, he kept backing himself. He knows that the odds are in his favour. You know, the likes of the Cliffords and, you know, the Conor O'Callaghan's, these guys don't get too stressed, you know. So confidence players, it's great, but they're, you know,
if you're at the highest level, you need to be beyond that.
What happens is they get a nice feeling from the first one going over and the second one going over, so then they relax. Whereas you'd like to cultivate that feeling in a different way, you know, rather than just the last one went over, because it might have gone over. Luckily, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're basing it on the wrong thing. So it's probably one of the most common things that you chat about with athletes. Is like, and it's a bit deeper than confidence can be a bit more recent, whereas self-belief is a bit deeper. It's, I've got this. I know I'll be able for it no matter what's thrown at me, you know.
Okay, so it's all about the next ball. Yeah.
Well, exactly. Well, staying present as much as you can, but tell your brain that, because your brain will keep yapping at you, going, "Remember the last one." You know what I mean? So you need tools and techniques to deal with it as best you can. You know?
I can understand why you went down this route and started doing sports psychology, because after the semi-final against Mayo in 2012, you spent an age blaming yourself for what happened that day, and yet it wasn't your fault.
Well, that's fair enough, and yeah, I probably just took it very personally a little bit, and whereas 2011 I was top of the mountain, 2012, and 2011 shouldn't have been that high and 2012 shouldn't have been that low, so I just had to figure out, you know, not that I was blaming my teammates, but, you know, to be like, you know, you make mistakes and stuff like that, and give a bit of compassion and a bit of understanding. So I was trained to be hard on myself growing up, and it was really good for me because it motivated you to move on. But when it was adding unnecessary pressure, I started being able to see the difference between actually driving myself on and just beat myself up, if that makes sense, you know. And it took me years then to try and, you know, reset the dials and get the balance right. You know, I'm thinking of a music, you know, a DJ box, get the sounds right, and eventually get the balance right between being honest and looking in the mirror, but also, you know what, you're a human as well. You know, that way.
Absolutely. Jim Gavin came in 2013, right? And I heard him the other day speaking about this chain that he had, but we'll speak about that in a sec. He came in and started contacting players, then wound up ringing the wrong Kevin McManamon. Is this true?
That is true, actually. Yeah. He was. There was a few stories. He was shaking it up and he was getting rid of a few players. And I was Mick McCauley. Have you spoke to Jim? Yeah. I met Jim for a coffee there the other day. Bernard Brogan. Yeah, no, I met him for lunch and all this. And I was looking at the phone. I must have no signal or whatever it is. So eventually, anyway, I'm waiting. Now we're meeting on Wednesday night, and it's Tuesday night at 10 o'clock, and I'm sitting there going, my career's over and all this sort of stuff. So give me his number anyway. So I rang him anyway, and says, Jim, real confrontation. Kevin McManamon here, did you lose my number or something? He goes, I was ringing you, Kev, he said. So I don't know whether it was a test, but he was ringing some other fella called Kevin McMahon or something like this.
Right.
So luckily I was invited to the first meeting. Took me a while to get in. I do think he liked some other players, you know. So I had a bit of work to do in the first year, and I didn't really start for him at all in his first year. You know?
Excuse me, I'm sitting in the lower queues and you come on against Kerry in the semi-final.
Well, I suppose,
them again.
You know, I understand. Well, I nearly didn't that day, would you believe? There was James McCarthy just did his AC joint, all right? Darren Daly was about to come on as our last sub. James McCarthy, in true McCarthy fashion, pretended there was nothing wrong with him. And so they left him on. So I mightn't have come on if James hadn't gritted the teeth and lasted the last few minutes, you know.
The warrior.
Yeah.
I think with all the experiences that you've had now, you're trying to, I suppose, pave a safer mental space for the younger players that are coming through, especially with initiatives now like Get Ahead of the Game. How important is that now for the younger generation coming up when you talk about the pressure that you were under and how hard you were on yourself and stuff?
Yeah, well, I suppose that's my own unique style of mindset, whereas, you know, we all have challenges going on, we all have pressures going on, and I've worked with young people for years in my job, and you see the pressures that they're under, and whether it's things like periods of low mood or experiencing anxiety. Now, mine was mainly on game day, you know, rather than on a Monday morning or a Friday evening. Do you know what I mean? So we all have stuff going on. So just trying to normalise, and the GA club is the best place to do it because it's your community. We understand we're here for you, we're together. So I think the more, and that's what the Ahead of the Game programme is. It's upskilling coaches, letting people aware. Listen, it mightn't happen today, it mightn't happen tomorrow, but at some stage in your life, you might go have a challenging week and you'd be really scary, or a challenging month, or whatever it is. So there's places to go. We have your back type thing. And, you know, it's just one of the things with like well-being is people sometimes when they're down, it feels like alone and they feel like there's something wrong. But like the more you can actually normalise it and people can just get it a little bit better, it does make things easier. And then you normalise the solutions, you know. So a lot of us talk about well-being as like, oh, these are all the down days and the challenges you have. But like, there's hundreds of solutions and there's people dedicating their lives to help you. Do you know what I mean? So I just think it's an important thing that people know, you know. And like sometimes I would meet teenagers, you know, one-to-one, or young athletes one-to-one, and you chat about them. You chat through the challenges, very, very common, but they can feel a bit like you're the only one.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That is natural, but it's good to have the tools to help you with those things. I know you're sitting on a fence, but if you were to fall either side of it by 5 o'clock today, would it be on the Kerry side or the Mayo side?
I'd be the heart would be given Mayo. I always said I wanted Mayo to win when I wasn't involved. I'm a Dublin fan. Well, I am a Dublin fan, but I just think Kerry will have too much for them, unfortunately. And I think I'm a little worried about a replay of the hurling. I shouldn't be saying it, and I spent the week in Kerry. They're all down in Dingle, and all the people are so lovely and welcoming to me. So maybe that's what I'm doing. But I'd love to see Mayo do it. But I think Kerry are too many years along.
The heart says Mayo and the head says Kerry.
Exactly. There you go.
Kevin, it's great to see you.
Yeah.
It really is.
Thanks for Kevin.
Thanks
Cheers.
for looking after yourself and enjoy the game today.
Yeah.
Now, coming up next, we're heading over to the catwalk for your Sunday morning fashion. Don't go anywhere.